Yeah, this is the experience. Why go anywhere else? It's just feeling like the simplicity of salvation is what was in my mind. Like we've talked a lot about the urgency, or like even says in the Course, being willing to dislodge yourself from your fixed position here is where the urgency is needed. But once you're in that, let all things be exactly as they are, even the urgency disappears.
There's nothing more immediate than it's already happening, already. That's more immediate than anything in the future.
We were going for a little walk today, and we were talking about all sorts of little exciting things, different offshoots, but they all came back to this same theme, that just resting in this, that there's no urgency. And yeah, we were almost joking. We're like 5 or 6 years to realize that there's no problem. There's still like a tinge of like, as if, there was some work to come to that realization, but it was like, wow, like all of this just to come to this space that there's no problem. And then you said, yeah, not that, oh, I'm afraid something is going to come back.
It's not like after several years realizing, oh, I had a huge problem and I finally overcome the problem and I hope it doesn't come back. And I hope there's nothing that I haven't discovered yet that will show up later. But it's this relaxation of, everything I thought was a problem never has been and never will be.
We're talking more and more like the Vedanta teachers. Nothing's happened, there's no problem.
It's funny, my mother talked to me a few days ago, and she was watching my show and she was trying to connect really, and not really knowing how to talk to me that can get me interested. But she was asking me a question. She said, so is the mind and body the same person? Or is the mind is one person and the body is another person? And I said, what are you really asking? I don't really understand this. So she was just, I just want to know the mind and the body connection kind of thing. So, and I was explaining in Chinese, and every time I do that, it's always different what comes out. It's something I've never said before, never heard before. It's surprising, but what I said to her was, the mind is real, you are the mind, and the body does not exist. And the reason that you think the body exists is because the thinking is in that. Also, so I gave a little metaphor, like if you hear another person talk about a problem, to them the problem can be very real and very solid and very big, but from your perspective, you could see there is nothing. Really, it's just completely illusory. The person is just get caught up in that. She said, I can understand that, but I can't understand that the body doesn't exist. I said it's the same thing because the thinking is caught up in it. So from within, it sees itself as solid and reality, but from without, it can see that it doesn't really exist. And I never explained it before, never think about it before. But when I said it, she was saying, oh, this is very deep. I don't know I can comprehend it, but I kind of can relate to what you're saying, but it seems like too deep to grasp or something. It's almost like from within the problem, which is what the mind is at right now. There's no way you can see through it. But it actually afterwards, I was just thinking, actually everything is around the same kind of context, thinking about money issues.
We got this letter today from Jenny, actually forwarding from the Dutch group in Holland, Amsterdam, saying, actually they wrote this, it was kind of a beautiful letter actually. They were really expressing where they were at with regards to funds, and they're saying, we run this trust cafe and we want to run everything in the same way. So we invite you into that same vibe. And that's actually how we live. And it was really beautiful. And they had said we had originally committed to giving you all of the funds, but actually we're open to accepting some of the funds too, which is how we normally do it if there's some kind of a tithing back to the location. But what was really beautiful for us was, if you actually think about the money, about whether you charge or you don't charge, or a donation or not. Like we were in Hawaii that one time and we did a retreat, and we did it all on a donation basis, and like 3 or 4 people came, and a certain amount came in, and it was beautiful. And then people said, you need to charge. So next time we charged, and they said, oh, if you should actually do it on a donation basis, because if you charge, less people will come. But we did both events, and there was absolutely no difference in the income or the number of people who come, or those who were devoted or those who weren't. It was like money was actually totally irrelevant. But the point that we were talking about was, when you put your attention there, you're forgetting that it's just a symbol of something else. So when you're talking about how much do you charge and all that, you're forgetting that it's about getting into the vibe of inspiration, and that will just reflect itself. It'll just be obvious whether...
It's really just a symbol and reflection of the abundance that you get in touch with, like how much you're living in the experience of inspiration, in the experience of abundance. Then everything that you think you need to continue this extension will come to your awareness. You know, it's always been taken care of everything, but we can choose to miss it and choose to focus on things are not right for me, or I prefer something to be a little different, or prefer to look into a problem, you know. But really the money, like even, you know, the thing is there is a freedom to talk about everything and allow everything to be used as a symbol, but money in and of itself does not imply abundance or not abundance at all. It's just irrelevant. It's like words does not mean what you're experiencing. You know, that's should always be the focus. It doesn't mean that you talk about abundance more, that becomes your experience. It's the other way around. Like when you are in that experience, words can flow from that or not, and it's irrelevant. And money is, you know, is a reflection, you know, of the divine flow that you're living in. And that's it. Like to focus on the symbol, to focus on the effect of the thinking, then we actually zoom into this you know, parts, and you know, to reinforce the parts and reinforce the separation and the problem, and never really be able to zoom to this perspective just to dissolve the problem itself.
Yeah, there's some kind of relaxation that's been happening to me these past weeks. Like there's, like I said, this urgency to wake up, so to speak, but something is just really relaxing. Like in spending time with you around actually just really letting all things be as they are. And yesterday we shared it we did a little 10-minute miracle gathering up at Mirror Lake. But the whole day was orchestrated for us to see that there, not only was there no problem, but there was no looking at the problem or trying to figure it out. It was just an inspiration. And when we did that, everything did seem to reflect, but the reflection was irrelevant too. It was like we just were happy, and we didn't care if the show ever got edited or anyone ever saw it, or we had a huge backlog or whatever, and it was pure inspiration. And that's the answer. Like from the minute you get up to the minute you go to bed, it's staying in that availability to extend. And it may look like words are coming through or not. It's more of a state of mind. And it can look in so many ways. Like we went up there and we were trying to, in the dark, use fire to write out of the blue in a 20-second frame. Froze, and it was like just being willing to be used with the light. Okay, let's do this. Whoever it's going to work through, whichever characters, because there's just this giant prayer for extension. But the more I'm doing it, it's actually not so much about like the words or speaking so that you're extending or anything. It's actually just staying in that availability And it may be like this morning, very silent and quiet. And there's a spaciousness of things, seem to need to move through, but it's almost like I've been fighting this my whole life, just this simplicity of salvation, this availability, no anxiety, no complexity. I'm like, wow, can it really be this simple? And my eyes, I can see everything clear into shaded areas. 2020. They're not even my eyes. Yeah, and I'm really loving this too, that it just looks how it looks. Like we were talking yesterday, Chris Everts was really, it was really beautiful because we had this encounter with Frances Zhu, where she just had this message that had to be delivered. And like a week ago, she'd been saying to him, if anyone ever tells you
or
asks you,
why did you do that? Implying you did something wrong.
Then you can say to them, why do the birds sing? So they're having this encounter of nothing could ever be wrong and you're innocent and there's impossibility of a problem. And then yesterday she goes like, I've got to say this. So I'm not going to do the show anymore, Chris, unless we get some of these uploaded and edited. And it was like all these specifics, as if there was a problem. And he was saying in the car, he's like, I knew there was something I had to look at deeper when Frances Zhu starts saying this. And it's true, but it looks how it looks. Like it doesn't mean anything. You can't hold yourself to the metaphysics, so to speak. You have to let whatever comes through, and that is the magnificent gift of this place, because it's about an experience underneath all the words, and I love it, really.
Yeah, I think for me as well, it's like the prayer of my heart is that I have the permission to be free in the moment and to allow whatever to come up. And even if that means, yesterday I said this, even if, I don't know that that's the perception, but even if I said left, go left, and today I have to say go right, I really want to have the freedom so that, you know, the mind is not hold on to like an image to protect or a consistency or some kind of meaning, so that, you know, there's this restriction that I impose onto myself, and this immediate of freedom, like is an experience, you know. It's actually, the words are beautiful and the message are beautiful, but if the message needs to come out in this moment in a very, very specific way and contradicts everything, and that's my prayer, to have that freedom. And in that, when I see that, when I have that experience of everything I say does not mean that's what I think about, but it's almost like I was telling Jason, I don't know what's going to come out, but it's going to be strong, and I don't know whether it's going to be nice or not nice, because there was no thinking process before it. And the freedom is to allow it to come out however it looks, and just not holding back. Then just in that experience, what I was feeling was I would not hold anybody for what they said, because I can see it doesn't mean this is what they believe or what they think, or it doesn't mean the words is not what they are, basically. Like, but the actions and the words are just in the moment. It needs to play out a certain way, and I want that freedom, and I want other people to have the freedom as well. And in the end, there is only one lesson, that's forgiveness. And it's really not about being consistent in form, or being nice in form, or being whatever in form. It's really about whether the freedom is experienced in the moment, whether you give yourself the freedom, whether I give myself the freedom to allow whatever to flow through, you know. And that's
because you're beyond it all. Like we were saying today, it's the acceptance of whatever's moving through. If it's a quiet state of mind or a passion, like tomorrow I'm going with Lisa. Traditionally, that's been like a very high kind of vibe. Not that it needs to be, but if that's how it looks, that's just as beautiful as this, because you're beyond it all, or including it all, whatever.
And that's the beauty of allowing the message to come through, because especially specific messages, because after you don't sit with it and you don't say this is inappropriate, or this is not spiritual enough, or this is this, or this will have this some kind of effect or consequence, you just allow it to go for it, then my experience is I don't believe any of it afterwards. You know, it always sounds pretty ridiculous, even to myself who said it. It's like, I don't believe, but when I hold on to it, it becomes to be bigger and real, and start to be like going round and round and round in my mind, become real. And the speaking sometimes is really just for clearing, or anything is like, you know, that blue t-shirt mass parable that I used to tell about JP's jacket is like a message is coming through, and allow the message be the vessel and be the channel, and then don't identify with the message. Don't go back and say, you know, this is what I said and it's true, blah blah. It's not true, you know. It's not true. It's just you let it go and you rise above. That's it. So that comes back to what is really the purpose of anything, and what is really the important thing, and what is that we want to focus on in all moments of the day, is this peace of mind. Like if I put that up front, if I just want to have peace, then if I have message to say, I have to say it, and if I have actions to take, I have to take it. But all of that action is to stay, actually, to be for the mind can rest. That's really just for that purpose. So the mind can rest and relax, to be in the function as a messenger of God, and then it can rest.
Otherwise, it's a holding back, actually, of the message.
Yeah, otherwise it identifies with the doer. I am the doer of this action. I am the thinker of these thoughts. Then that is in and itself, it doesn't really even matter about the content anymore. Not the content of the thoughts, not the content of the action. As long as the identification is there, that's the feeling. The peace is lost,
I'm not the doer. To be so available and to be so activated, that's my joy of this. Like we were talking a while back about some non-dual or Vedanta teachers, they can be in the experience or whatever and sharing the high stuff, but this is like, I don't know, to me it's like taking the whole ocean from the depths to the surface. Like all of it is acceptable and letting whatever come out. Like I still think of that story with Cody when we were sitting in the kitchen and he walked into the room. You and Utah were there, and I remember I had Brenda Hamilton called. I feel to call her. Do either of you feel to join me? And you said, yeah, I do. So let's go up to my room. We make the call, just leave a message, and then nothing. And then Anna Lou Flower, was there and called her. I don't call her, We called her. I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we calling all these friends of yours? Well, friends of all of ours. But he's like, well, I'll tell you why. I just was in my room praying half an hour ago to let go of all personal relationships. And here we were calling them and not even really knowing why. And it was like just to be activated in that thing. And then we ended up having a very deep talk and a joining and went to a movie together and had a ginger beer. And it just led, and then all of that was then to end up into a high function again with South Africa talk for 20 minutes that I then reported up to the monastery. And it was just this high orchestration of events by just being willing to be totally involuntarily used. And I really, really love that for some reason. I mean, the experience obviously, but even to just know that there's something that knows way more than we could ever possibly know, and to be a part of that, to be in it, that's my path out of this whole thing. I love it. I mean, that's that's what I love about you. It's always not holding back on whatever. You don't even know the results of some of these things. Like Suzanne and Christian yesterday, we had thoughts. Is there something we're supposed to call them about? We didn't even know what.
Right, we were almost calling them, but then we thought, we don't know why. Let's just not calling them before we know why.
And then you walk into the room here. Yeah, there's a polar vortex. Maybe we should call Suzanne and Christian to have them shut down the monastery. And it obviously wasn't about the polar vortex, but there's something much deeper going on in the mind, and to let everything be used, weather, the bodies, the people. We don't even know ourselves what it was about, but I know that there was something deeper, and that's still very exciting to me. That's why you can't get caught in interpersonal relationships and all that kind of stuff, because it just blocks the full use of everything that we're going for. You know, if they're part of that, great, but yeah, I've just been noticing how much my mind is freed up from trying to figure anything out, and it's just like so much more available when there's not that interpersonal thing and looking to be helper or helpee or right or wrong or whatever. It's just, yeah. I don't even know what relationship means right now. Like, what does that even mean? Like, when you say, are you a couple? I really get the answer is a couple of what? It's just the love, you know. That's what we've been enjoying this week. There's just this love, and that's what's being extended, so to speak. And
that's what we're experiencing, this weakness and strength. When people are in this collaborative relationship using a backdrop that's given by the Spirit, it's really strengthening. Like, we are supporting each other in staying in the Spirit, and do not, playing small. Started to believe in thoughts of problems, or start to look at problems and make them bigger than they should. Just indulge in those kind of thinking or thoughts. It's really a support. And sometimes the relationship can be used for weakness, and it's not obvious. It kind of can be subtle, but you can feel you started to play a role that is kind of weak. But even if in the world or in the ego way it's a stronger role, it's still weak, because if it is not to support your strength as the Son of God and one with the Spirit, then there's still weakness. To think, I will get my happiness from the other person, or all of that is actually really weakening. But that's why the relationship is used and as a path to awakening, because there's just so much hook in it. So tempting to play weak in that. And that's why if it's really used by the Spirit, it is so fast. All of this will be brought up to be seen.
Amen. Funny, I was on this trip to Chicago. I haven't shared this with anybody yet, but I had this experience when we had like a 3 or 4 hour break window. I was in this meditation at the nunnery or convent, and there's this like kind of an anxiety coming up again. And same thing, okay, what do I need to say, address, whatever. And just went into deep meditation, and I heard it's time to let messengers go. That's what came to my mind. Let it go. And I was like, what? Uh-oh. That's like, what does that mean? Am I to go out or away or what? And then actually I saw some fear of funds, like being supported actually, that was coming up. And I could see that, I really need to deepen in divine providence. Like, it's like a practice, it can be easy to get comfortable or used to an organization. And it's like, okay, well, whatever it takes, I just want to live in that full experience of divine providence. And so I was sitting with that and almost trying to figure out what it meant. But all the anxiety disappeared. And I was just like, wow, I feel so peaceful, because instantly all the concepts of having to relate with certain messengers or relate with volunteers dissolved, or understand, I don't know, how to spend money, everything. It just all dissolved, because the concept, there was still like a holding on. And as soon as I just stepped out of that, it was like I let it go in that moment. It's like I left without leaving or something. And I still don't exactly know what it means, but it's like an expansion beyond it. I was going to talk to you about that one day, but I guess it's here. Full circle. And it's even felt better since then. It's just like a willingness to just go wherever I'm called and have funds, not have funds, just kind of a deeper divine providence. But any concept that you hold on to too long, has to be leapt off of. It's just the art of knowing when. Because there's got to be that full immersion in God dependence. Full immersion. You're not dependent on people or words or an organization. And I didn't ever think I was even dependent on that when I came in. So why would I have created it? But this has been used to so get at the subtleties of the ego and let them up and speak and extend. And if there's been any creeping in then of a sense of safety, I really want that. I want that gone, so whatever.
I remember when I first showed this mini movie that I made, Dark Night? Yeah, in Mexico. We were really talking about the fear when you're asleep. And just as we went into it about, is that a fear of God or a fear of the dream or the fear, I get confused in my mind, and then seems that I carry that question in my mind since Mexico all the way here, and I have this feeling like the fear. Experientially, I can't really say I know what the fear is about, and then one day they read your book, David, Unwind Your Mind Back to God. There was one sentence just stood out, said fear has no object and has no degree. And I thought, that's it. I know it. There is no object. Fear has no object. I can say, even if it is like even a metaphor that I feel the Course is using, by saying I'm afraid of God, but there is no object, and it's like the experience of fear or the experience of love. And when there seems to be experience of fear, and it was tremendous helpful stepping stone to really look at the specifics, but I don't really feel the specifics needs to be analyzed anymore to say I am afraid of public speaking. I'm afraid of
money.
No money. I'm afraid of being abandoned. All of those are concepts that eventually needs to be let go of. When there is experience of fear, that's what we were talking about. There is only one solution to all problems, and it doesn't really matter how deep you want to go into the details of the problem and analyze the specific problems and try to find specific solutions, but the solution is always in extending. I'm afraid of the money issue, or I'm afraid of, that's okay if that is still believed to be true, but the only answer of anything, I don't want to be jealous of other people. What is the solution? Extending. I don't want to hold back. The solution, extending. I don't want to experience lack. Solution, extending. Or living in the inspiration, allow the inspiration to flow and keep moving forward. That's, yeah.
One problem, one solution. Or seeming multiple problems, one solution.
Yeah. And that's what I see David. That's why David is like a way shower, because when you become the message, you don't necessarily have to talk about it, but you do it. You're the demonstration. You're teaching the whole universe and yourself who you are by not going into the specific problem-solving mode and just keep moving in one direction and one
Keep
direction.
going forward.
Yeah. Yeah.